Thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen, for joining us now this Thursday. We are happy that the Lord has made it happen. And of course, we also hear courtesy of the Look Up Television family, and everyone has been speaking about this, the fallen soldier, the fallen statesman, Raila Amolo Odinga. May his soul rest in eternal peace. Even as we speak about that, the same conversation brings us now to this particular conversation on the Social and Health Hour this morning. If you're joining us for the first time, remember we are live across all social media platforms, that is on YouTube, Facebook and TikTok, Instagram, and as well as our website www.lookuptv.co.ke. Our WhatsApp line is also working. 0745652640 is also working. Cheza kama wewe mapema, and your best. We have this conversation in the best way possible. You have any comments, you can jot them in and we'll read them right here as the exclusive conversation is underway. This morning we'll be speaking about the fallen statesman and of course the impact of Odinga's death right here in the Republic. Joining us now this morning will be Marianne Jogu, advocate of the High Court of Kenya, and of course we'll also have later on in the discussion Gogo Mkare, the digital political communication strategist, will be helping us understand how impactful is Odinga's death right here in the Republic. You realize that so many Kenyans stormed different places, including the Jomo Kenyatta International Airport, also the Kasarani Stadium, and of course the Nyayo Stadium as well, and also the home of the late former Prime Minister Raila Odinga in Bondo. So many Kenyans got there, you know, to shed their concerns and of course to just mourn their man. And now, as we speak about that, there's also point of consideration when we are having this discussion, and what does Raila's death mean to the political space right in the Republic, even as we near the general elections 2027, and how is the state of opposition even as we speak right now. Ladies and gentlemen, there is also a point of consideration with Mutahi Kahiga, Nyeri governor, who sparked national outrage after stating at a burial yesterday, 21st October, that Raila Odinga's death spared Mount Kenya a point of review. And if we have this conversation, it'll get at a point where we really understand what these statements of confusion, or to just set aside the questions that have been asked right in the online spaces, and also the question that the society has been asking, or to divert attention to these people that have been mourning the late former Prime Minister. So Kenyans held Raila's memorial service at the Kenyan Embassy in Washington, D.C. If you had that before, of course, to just take you on the loop of what is happening after that Nyeri governor's statement. Mnatumika na gidhinji kuleta vita kati ya Wajaluo na Wakikuyu. Malala lectures Governor Wanga and Mutahi Kahiga, and of course the owner of this dog is Rigathi Gachagua. MP Member of Parliament Anthony Oloch describes that as well. Of course, ODM bans Gachagua from stepping in Bondo. You realized there was some point of consideration when former DP did not attend Raila's burial ceremony, and of course any engagement that would have resulted to chaos. And Asema kwamba it was very important and significant for him not attending that particular burial. Mutahi Kahiga celebrates death because he is a beneficiary of death. ODM will not seek the friendship of Gachagua and his surrogates. All right. So we also have some of the statements that are made by different leaders, including Raila Odinga Jr. says, my condition was not caused by an accident. It's actually a condition known as non-constrictive tumor in my brain. So people have been, criticizing vile mtoto wa Raila Odinga anafanana, and we'll get to also understand that there's something that was made online, and they're saying that there is something that will be done to these TikTokers that walikuwa wanacheza na outlook ya mtoto wa Raila Odinga. Will also get an understanding on that, since of course you are in these spaces. What does this mean to these people? Ni charges kama gani watapatiwa, or something of that sort. Allow me to read some of the statements that are made by some of the leaders upon Mutahi Kahiga's statements. Governor Mutahi Kahiga, I've said this before and I'll say it again. Why are you pushing one community against the wall when the country is yet to come to terms with the loss of Baba Raila? That is Oscar Sudi giving a statement right on the 21st of October. Gladys Wanga says, for 3 consecutive days before his sudden death, Right Honorable Raila Odinga expressed shock at the capacity of human beings to be evil and heartless. A new low our politics had hit. Today, Governor Mutahi Kahiga came out with a very rare admission that for him and his supporters, Raila's death was their prayer answered. Kahiga has long thrived on bursts of false and outrageous allegations, personal insults, fear, mongering and ethnic profiling, especially when it comes to the Luo motion and Raila Odinga. I take serious offense at Kahiga's outburst. Cecilia Mbarire says, at a time when our nation is mourning, Governor Mutahi Kahiga's statements are not only careless but profoundly disrespectful, both to the memory of a statesman, to millions of Kenyans who are grieving his loss. This statement is also made by Miguna. Miguna says, in a working country, Mutahi Kahiga should not sleep in his house tonight. He should be behind bars awaiting prosecution for inciting tribal hatred between the Luos. All right, allow me to stop there. So this conversation begins like this. What is the impact of Raila's death right here in the Republic? What is some of the ignition that this death brings as far as now the political space is concerned? My name is Moses Ketch, and of course you're watching The Morning Drift right here on the headquarters Look Up Television. It is 9 minutes past 8 a.m. Allow us to introduce our guest. Good morning.
Good morning.
How are you feeling this morning?
Quite great.
Indeed?
Yes.
Did Odinga's death affect you?
I'm going to be honest that when I got the information, I actually got the information when I got to the office, and I found people speaking about death of Baba, and I was like, what are you guys talking about? And that's not possible. And I realized that previously there are many times when Kenyans, including I myself, would have thought, when is this man leaving the stage? But when the information broke out, I felt a completely different feeling from what I had imagined.
Good.
And I was so sad. And until now, I'm still coming to terms with actually that Baba is actually no more.
Good.
So for sure that affected me in quite a negative way, especially because of the respect and honor that I had for Raila as a person who loves politics, a student of history, and of course now a student of law, and now practicing as an advocate. So yeah, that did catch me by surprise. I was actually at Kasarani.
Wow.
Funny enough, I did try to go there with a couple of friends and try see the late just before the circus that broke out with the shooting and the tear gas. Yeah.
All right. Thank you, because you've mentioned a couple of things about yourself. I'd really like, for what I've not mentioned, that is Advocate of the High Court, Marianne Jogo, please introduce yourself in the best way possible.
Yes. I'm an advocate of the High Court of Kenya. I am currently practicing in Nairobi with Begi Law. I am also an advocate of mental health. I love politics and governance as well, and have been following it for quite some time, from when I was very young. So I'm actually not new in the political conversation. Yes. All right. Yes.
And I'm happy that you're having a societal conversation. That means it will join in hands, of course, to collaborate and understand the alignment of all these happenings right here in the Republic. We are speaking about fallen statesmen, and generally we've had other statesmen that have lost their lives. Which one was the only statesman that sparked controversy, sparked attention right here in the Republic?
Well, I would rightly say, having witnessed the death of the two former presidents, Moi, which I also happened to view his body and attend the memorial service, Mwai Kibaki, I would actually say that the one passing that has caused a lot of emotions, commotions, and attention was one of the Honorable Raila Odinga. The man equally loved and hated, but as it was on all social medias, on all televisions, people came out in numbers, more than we have seen before. And from the conversations that have been there, it has been even more than what has been witnessed before the times that I could actually speak about, when the first president passed on, when the likes of Tom Mboya's passed on. So this particular death has actually affected Kenyans in a very great scope, and of course we've seen many Kenyans, and they're still doing memorials in different parts, even of the country and of the world, which actually came shocking. I saw a memorial in India.
Wow.
Yes, I saw they just recently did their memorial in India, and very many counties. We saw videos in Turkana, and contrary to what was even being spread on social media, I saw videos from Embu, people actually mourning and doing vigil for the late Honorable Raila Odinga. So definitely, yes, a man equally loved and equally hated.
This is an expression of love from across the Republic, and many of the people came out in large numbers, both online and physical, you know, ensuring that they mourn this this icon, this enigma in a particular direction, a particular way. When you hear such environment, the news came in and to the ears of many. So many could not believe that this is happening at this particular point in time. And so many people would say that, hey, death ya Raila imekuja haraka sana. You know, this point in time is speaking about if he lives. This point in time he says that when he dies and goes back to Ebenezer, and thereafter we hear about his silence, his sickness, then thereafter we realize that he's normal. So this was a news that was so much heartbreaking to the ears of many. But in response to where you sit, how do you feel that the news when the news came in right to the government and to the people, how do you think we would have addressed this news? Because many would have said that kifo ya Raila haiko sai. This death happened long time ago. This is the only time we are receiving this news. How do you think we would have received this news?
Well, I think in my perspective, of course, there have been very many theories of when he could have died. I choose to go with what the family and the government says, because then, you know, without evidence of any other information, and that would mean that what did we also bribe the government of India to collaborate the story? And we've seen the videos of him walking around. We've heard of people saying that he actually called and he was ready to come back. And I think that's also a stage of death that may be a discussion for later, that when sometimes people are about to die, there's a resurgence of energy and they look like they're getting better and then they suddenly leave. But of course, the state had to take time to deliver this information, although now with the wake of social media, the information was already out before the president could tell us. And I could tell that there was confusion for even the government. And
confusion of his death?
Yes, in terms of, well, the ones who had spoken with him, members of even the opposition party, were not looking forward to such information. And even the family said, okay, fine, at some point we thought he'll come back and this is not what we were waiting for. But unlike the other state funerals that I have witnessed, this one, and especially on the very first day, on Thursday, was consumed with a lot of confusion. And I think that's because also members of the state, a good number of them were actually mourning. There are those who are perceived to be mourning, but a good number were actually mourning. There's the overwhelmment of the people and how they received the information, and that is why you saw the confusion that was there from receiving the body to you know, there were plans to actually fly it, but it went on road and people accompanied the body all the way to the viewing in Kasarani and all that took place with the shooting and the tear gas. So I think that is also a good information for us to use in the future to prepare for such kind. I think we probably even underestimated, maybe the government underestimated the reaction. We might have known he's loved, but I think even myself, what I witnessed is an actual testament that he was the people's president, for sure, because of the reactions. So I think we did underestimate and underplan on how that could look like on all ends, the state and the citizens. And so there was a bit of confusion and all that. But I believe the family's story, and even if it happened maybe a few days before, that's for their story to tell. But for now, the story collaborates of what happened and when he actually died. And anything else, unless proven otherwise, to me is quite, contrary. It's neither here nor there,
And the assumptions that many will not perhaps come out in large numbers, you know, because of the daily activities to hunt out there, and of course to just secure a living. But you realize many people left their businesses. in Bondo, of course, the businesses that are closed down, and making sure that lazima to celebrate this moment. So many people left their jobs just to mark this day. And of course, also the president mentioning that we'll have 7 days of mourning was so much significant. But allow us not to dive to the statements that Mutahi Kahiga made yesterday, of course, in relation to a couple of days, like 21st was Juicy.
Yes.
So these statements are also in the sense of confusion, that why should a leader, a governor for that matter, make such a statement? Eden Sifuna says that they kept shouting, Baba told me, Mutahi Kahiga was wrong, but is this what Baba could do? Is this what Baba stood for? Was this Baba Raila Odinga's approach on hate and tribalism? So Baba countered hate with love, tribalism with unity. We know there are those who hated Baba, but it's still shocking to hear it. Mutahi Kahiga is easily the vilest of the bunch. But Baba taught us to always respond with love. If he were still around, the next thing you will see is him having lunch with Kahiga. So in counter-attacking these statements, what do you think was the best response from the opposition, right to the heart of ordering democratic movement, to making sure that these statements are not filled with hate, but with love to what Baba would have loved? How should we approach such statements, and how would such leaders embrace themselves in making sure that there are particular statements that do not mean harm, but mean unition as far as the country is concerned?
Well, first of all, I myself am surprised by those remarks. I come from Mount Kenya region, and I'm proud about that, and I loved and respected Baba. And I don't think those remarks represent the remarks of the whole community. And I do agree that Baba did not stand for hate and tribalism. In fact, among his last conversations and speeches that have been going around, the last time he was in the Mount Kenya region, he did raise the issue of tribalism, and people are afraid of Baba. Every time they're coming, they say they're scared of Raila. And he was clear that even the leaders that came from the Lake region largely supported and contributed to the wins of the leaders that we have rising from Mount Kenya region, starting with Odinga, him refusing to take power and insisting that our first president, Jomo Kenyatta, be released. And he could have taken power, but he supported him. Second to when they were trying to end the regime of dictatorship by Moi, it was Raila who said Kibaki, Tosha, and supported him to take out the regime. So for sure, Baba has not stood, and I have not heard of a speech of him in his lifetime being divisive. But I think there is no way to say how best to approach it. And I think freedom of expression in Kenya, which is rightly provided for in the Constitution, very beautiful document, is sometimes misconstrued and overused. And that is a good example of that. That is taking the freedom of speech overboard. And that is actually spreading hate among communities and inciting hate and division. And politicians will react to that differently.
But don't you think he had some particular intentions? This was aimed at a particular information that the public should receive.
Well, if you've seen rightly, even before his statement, a debate between the two communities has come back. The Luo versus the Kikuyu. From how the Luo were mourning to, they have been that pushback since the passing of Raila Odinga. And that's a debate that shouldn't be there. And there seems like to be that there's an agenda. And his statement came in rightly to just feed the agenda. And I think even what was more concerning to many people isn't just him as an individual. It was the people that were clapping and agreeing with his statements. So as much as we want to act like tribalism is fully out, clearly it is not. And it's something that we need to continue working to eradicate in Kenya. But I encourage people not to be incited to go back that way. And it's a card people always throw when we are almost towards election. It's a card they always bring when we are almost towards election. And that card was almost brought when we had protests this year, and a whole hashtag was started that we are all Kikuyus, because
Great.
it was being said that the
Indeed.
Kikuyus are destroying property as a form of maybe exclusion from the government or something. So there will be leaders like that. But Kenyans need to separate themselves from such leaders. And I agree, consequences should follow. I know he's resigned as the deputy chair for the Council of Governors, but that is not enough. He should actually be prosecuted under the Constitution for hate speech and speech that is actually inciting tribal division and tribal hate.
So you're saying that these statements from Mutaika are very intentional?
Yes, they were very intentional. And looking at the mood, it's quite the wrong time for even such statements. And let me be honest, I agree with everyone that says in a working nation. I know you've seen such kind of statements.
Yes.
I agree with them. In a working nation, because we've been exposed to developed countries and how they operate, you make such a statement today, tomorrow you're out of office.
Yes.
It's just in Kenya, I see leaders talk openly about stealing an election and they're still in power. They talk about God has done a whole community a favor, which is spreading tribalism against the law and the constitution, and they're still in power and they're still holding government offices. They should actually be out. And Kenya is not there yet, but I do hope we get there, that leaders, especially leaders who represent a community, who represent a government office, elected leaders, should not be allowed.
Jogu, as an advocate, what do you think about his apology then?
Well, apology is welcome, but that's not enough. There are things that I think Kenya, we are quite tolerant with crime and illegality when it comes to people in power. Right? And so it's okay to make an apology, but there should be consequences. Everything has consequences. Even if you commit murder in Kenya, you could apologize to the family, but there's still the penal consequences that come. And I think we should push for consequences for that statement, and not just him. Because now pushing too much right now may again look like we are feeding into that political and tribal divide, because people will ask, why him? Why now? But I think whether he will serve as an example for everybody else, moving forward when leaders stand out to speak tribal or hate, or to even speak of stealing an election when we're about to get into election period, there should be consequences for that.
Indeed. All right, thank you so much, Marian Jogu, advocate of the High Court. You'll also help us understand what are some of the consequences or prosecution that perhaps would Mutaika receive. Also, you'll be able to help us understand that as well. Governor Mutaika, my governor, the statement you have made today about the passing of Raila Odinga is very unfortunate, reckless, shallow, and irresponsible. As a son from Kikuyu community in Nyeri County, I dissociate myself from your school of thought. Raila did not rest so that Kikuyu community can benefit. You can do better than that, and shame. That is Madira MP Eric Wamumbi. Ladies and gentlemen, of course, this is the impact of understanding Raila's death right in the Republic, and of course, with such statements, it puts the political space in a very bad situation, even as we near the general elections. And of course, I'm happy that Marianne, you've mentioned about it is not the right time to speak about these are the Luos and the Gikuyus. It is time for everyone to unite as one, as a nation, to make sure that we propel same message, so that we have also peaceful elections when it comes to the general elections as well. It is 26 minutes past 8 a.m. We're taking a short break, but when we get back, we'll now have an understanding and a clear understanding of how the country is affected by Odinga's death. Don't go too far. You're watching The Morning Drift. All right. So when we get back, so we'll just
people are there to belittle you. When people are questioning you,
if you don't move fast, of course, yes, you lose it, but then it's not us to push you.
but you do not know the God who has been molding me, what has he been doing to me?
The deep and mature conversations of empowerment for you with a curious mind and an appetite for oriented conversations.
I concur with what you're saying. You plan your finances, you can easily live without a debt.
an engaging safe space of free expression and truthfulness with an upheld vibrance, motivation and happiness.
So many children who are there, they are not living their dreams.
Join us for deep conversations with Zipporah Gashushe every Saturday from 8 p.m. The Deeper Conversations on Look Up TV.
Taarifa zinapochipuka na kutufikia papa hapa kwenye makao makuu ya chumba cha habari cha runinga ya Look Up, kwenye taifa, kwenye serikali, kwenye bunge, tunajitosa hadi kwenye sauti ya wenyeji ili kupata tu maoni ya wenyeji kuhusu masuala haya yanayochipuka.
Maana hii kitu inaenda kuumiza Mkenya kwa tax.
Hakuna kitu tunafurahia. Nothing. Absolutely nothing.
Sisi tunaumia, si ati tunaumia ile ya kiukweli. Juu maisha ni ngumu.
Na bila shaka tunapata maoni yao ili sauti yao ipate kusikika. Na watasema hili, waseme lile, watasema hiki, na waseme kile, almuradi sauti yao ipate taa.
Mambo ya mafuta tena imekuwa ni changamoto zaidi kwa kila mtu wa bodaboda.
Uchumi ikikuwa stable, tunaamini mambo itakuwa sawa sawa.
Kwanza liko na ria wasa wa boda, mama mboga nini. Hawa sasa ndio wamefinywa zaidi man.
Mtazamaji, hii ni bunge la wenyeji.
Save a Life is a non-profit organization that has taken the front line in transforming lives in the entire country. So far, we have transformed life of over 100,000 people through our programs, which include medical support, youth empowerment, street family program, feeding program, and climate change. Join us today as we transform lives. As we always say, service to humanity is service to God. Save a life, transforming lives.
All right. On the Daily Nation, of course, also speaks about the loose cannon. Costly gaffe Nyeri Governor Mutahi Kahiga has ignited national outrage, with utterances viewed as celebrating the death of former Prime Minister Raila Odinga, with the ensuing public backlash forcing him to quit his post in the Governor's Council, but demands for tougher sanctions intensified even as the incident triggered a political showdown. Ladies and gentlemen, we are back on the Morning Drift, and we are of course speaking about the impact of Odinga's death right in the Republic, and the society is affected. We do not hide that fact, and even as we speak about that, there's so many things that are taking shape right in the Republic, and of course, as Marian Jogo mentioned earlier, it is not time to speak about tribalism, which Odinga did not advocate for. Also in his book, The Flame of Freedom, he really ensured that the conversations on tribalism are cut off, and of course there is sort of an alignment to making sure that we have a positive nation towards building a nation for a greater tomorrow. Now that he is gone, what are some of the things that the country can do to make sure that some of the things that he had fought for are taking shape, and of course so many people, including the government, are really in support of? You are watching the Morning Drift. We are live across all social media platforms, on YouTube, our website www.lookuptv.co.ke. You can send in your comments. Also use the WhatsApp number 074564652. I've forgotten that WhatsApp line, but it's down the screen. You can take a look and of course comment on our WhatsApp line. Itakuwa fiti sana as we continue the conversation. Asante sana for joining us once more. Yes. Earlier on, you'd mentioned about some of the things that are happening and some of the things that Raila Odinga wanted, some of the things that you feel Wakenya want to respond to. But even as we speak about this, how do you think the Odinga's death impacted the people and impacted the government and the country at large?
Well, I can say that while the late Raila Odinga was not there before independence and at some point there, but Kenya has not walked this path before for a majority of Kenyans, for a majority of politicians. A majority of us don't know a political scene or a nation and conversations without Honorable Raila Amolo Odinga. And therefore that means that a gap has definitely been left. With the government, many have been mentored by him. Others have, run and had political discourse against him. And he's been a point of either pointing fingers or fighting over. And that now he's left the political scene. So that is going to change. And for many Kenyans, they don't know politics and governance without Raila Odinga's voice. And he's really shaped different types of discourse in this country, including the constitution and devolution and the freedom of speech, which we currently enjoy. And so, therefore, for both government and citizens, this is a man who's going to be constantly missed. And people are going to wonder, as time changes and politics change, what will have Baba thought about this? What will have Baba said about this? So definitely his vision, his mission and his voice, and keeping even the government on toes. And even when he collaborated so that things can work better, we are all gonna miss that. And I keep saying, of course, the people say that the grave is the richest place. Of course, he was quite advanced in age, but there are things that we will never know that he might have done or he might have achieved given the chance. So definitely that's a big loss for.
Someone is asking, all those that you've mentioned here are really good, were really good before he joined the government.
I actually don't agree. I actually don't agree. The thing that I realize is we probably are not very good students of history, and especially young people. And there's when Raila Odinga is very much in opposition, there was the keeping in toes and the information and the pressure that he did put. But the many things we are talking about were actually achieved when he tried to collaborate with the government. Look back through Kibaki's era. There are many things we attribute to Kibaki. And we keep forgetting that part of the people that enforced and brought to life some of these visions were partly the Right Honorable, now rested Raila Odinga, including the infrastructure that we keep talking about that we're not paying for in our current regime. He was behind the architecture. He was among the people that even appointed some of the ministers that were in charge of executing the infrastructure. So when you talk about the road systems and you're attributing that to Kibaki, there is the Honorable Raila Odinga's aspect in it. When you talk about, even changing from the former president Moi all the way to Kibaki Tosha, there was the changes that happened in between the parties, and when he moved from this side to support this side. So with all through, even with his collaborations, they've either brought peace and put an end to either bloodshed or harsh situations in the country, and they have also pushed towards certain reforms. Even if you look at the election reforms that have been there, he's been the voice behind it through the different losses and the fights and the collaboration. If you look at the very last handshake or collaboration that made the Gen Zs particularly angry, apart from just giving the technocrats that he did, the conversation for compensation actually came from that handshake, right? For the victims. And right now, whether the compensation happens or not, in my perspective, and this is my individual perspective, will not be the fault of Raila, will be Kenya's fault. Because the people rightly interfering with whether that commission works or not is us.
But the people are also saying that it wasn't the good time for Raila to collaborate with the government when the Gen Zs were, agitated and making sure that things are not aligning. Then you're supposed to speak for us. Then you're joining the government. Do you think that was a wrong time as well?
Well, people have different ways of doing things, and I think by now people have also had a better understanding of Raila and how he thinks. First of all, I rightly say this with a lot of respect for Gen Zs, and I'm a Gen Z myself, who was actually on the streets in 2024. And one thing is, what I've learned from leaders, having even listened to the guidance by the former speaker, Ole Kaparo, when you're called to the table of discussion, you have to make sure that your voice is in the table of discussion. When things of national importance are being discussed and you want to be factored in, be there at the table. There's a time to be at the streets, there's a time to dialogue, and there's a time to make sure that your voice is in the spaces that matter. And that is one area that we faltered in when we were called to have a discussion and refused. And with the situation in the country, Honorable Raila Odinga has always been the person to try and calm the waters down. And many people might have judged him, but I think you've heard from several leaders reflecting on his life. Every time that it was either for his supporters, and even, I mean supporters both politically, they were like, it's either we go for a re-election or we are declared the winners, because the conviction is that they won the election. But when he looks at the situation and the room of the country, he eventually decides we don't have to insist on this win, because I know all the time he did feel that he actually won those elections, and there are people who are actually coming to terms with that after the reflection of how he was mourned, that they could be one of those elections were actually stolen. But all these times, when it's either go for re-election or we fight until we are declared, and there's a hard stance, and everybody in the room is pushing for that, he changes his mind and decides to sit down and talk. Not because he couldn't stand and insist on being declared, but he's looking for the peace of the country. And Kenyans are forgetting that we are firstly losing leaders who put us first before their interest. So even in that time of the Gen Zs, yes, it's debated whether it was good or not, but because he's in the political scene, he chose what he knows best, to sit down and try and discuss with this government, because maybe you're better influencing it from inside than outside. And if you look at the people that even were given to work in the government, they're among the performing ministers and CSs that we have, right, compared to what we have from the party that formed the government. We need to be honest about such kind of things, that their performance is actually good. The conversations of compensation came from there. He could have pushed it from outside probably, but them coming to sit down, and he's constantly said that this collaboration does not mean that ODM and UDA have a merger. I think that has been in public domain for the longest. He's always said that there's no merger between ODM and UDA. It's a collaboration for the betterment of this country for a short period all the way to 2027. And towards the end, he was also very clear, this collaboration isn't necessarily going past 2027. And that's why there's a video of him actually saying, who told you and who said that we might not have a candidate for 2027?
All right. I want us to shift gears to, of course, the bills that in the line of mourning, the bills that were initiated. But before we get to that, do you think it was very important that Raila Odinga could have just gone to Bondo, take a rest and, relax, calm down, and oversee the government while in Bondo? Do you think him being part of the government and getting in the stresses day in, day out, also part and parcel of cardiac arrest?
Well, the thing that I have in my observation of our older generation, and especially those who still have a vision, they don't want to go home, they still want to work. Kibaki once said in national television, I was a very great fan of Kibaki and I love him, and he said, munataka niende nyumbani kufanya nini? Kila mtu afanye kazi, iko kazi ya kufanya. So you could understand with these people, when you still have a vision that is burning inside you, you keep pushing until you achieve it, and you don't go home until you achieve it. I'm not very good at Kiswahili, but there's a Kiswahili, I think, methali that says, atafutaye hachoki na akichoka kisha pata. And I think in the process of running towards a certain vision, he didn't see time running. He didn't think that it's time to leave the stage. There's an argument that maybe he should have left the stage. But I think why he's loved the way he's loved, why he's hated the way he's hated, is part of that, fighting until the end. You cannot deny his influence all the way till his death. Fine, there are people who might think the last few years watered down his legacy. I don't think so. 2 years, 5 years cannot water down 40 years of legacy. that has actually brought forth devolution, the Constitution, freedom of speech, among other things that we hail him for. So no. But of course, with health, it's now coming clear that he was actually sick, and he rightly, and in his own right, and the family's right, put that away from the public view. And for me, hearing that he had also issues with DVT, I've had that when I was a bit younger, and I knew that when you have such conditions, you're not allowed to maybe walk a lot. So I don't know if the walking and all that towards the end could have contributed to that cardiac arrest. From my experience with DVT, you don't move. You get to finish the treatment, because with every movement, there's an increased chance. And I had to be put under bed rest for quite some time. So I thought maybe that contributed to it. But the things about death is that there's someone who has more control. And I think for many of us, we thought that Raila would never die. Maybe because of the theories we were told when we were young. Some were told he was a witch. I was told if he became president, I would wear a brown kaptula. Others were told because he's cheated death many times, he might even turn into Luanda when there's danger. And many of us didn't see him as a person who would die. And his death has brought confusion and a lot of emotion towards that. But he was 80. That's a man who's actually lived, and he was living on borrowed time. So perhaps it was just time for him to rest. And Kenyans should allow him to rest.
I remember those times, of course, we were having so many imaginations. Wow.
Yes.
And you've brought it out clear that this is coming at a point where everyone can leave.
Yes, yes.
Everyone can leave.
Yes, and I think we should extend each other grace as Kenyans. Speaking from my own experience, had I not become a student of history, a student of the law and a lawyer, maybe there are things about Raila I would never have understood, because growing up I was told those things. He's a witch. Which church does he go to? He's this, he's this. But because of my studying of history and studying of the law, I started understanding him as a man. And when I grew up, I could think for myself. So there are many people who are still carrying those myths. And they
Speaking
saw
about
that
that, speaking about the myth things, there's someone, there's a mzee that said, actually on the internet, that said Raila is dead, but later on, of course, Raila will in a couple of days, Raila atafufuka na atakuja nasi. In response to that, do you think from where you see it, is there a chance?
No, no, there is no such chance. Death is a finality. Maybe reincarnation.
But many people expected that vitu zinaweza fanyika and it will rise again.
I think that is process of healing. We've not really, so many people have not come to terms with, including myself, that he's actually gone. I wake up and I was like, there's a day I was counting, like this is his second day in the grave. And for me as a Christian, I believe death is finality and no one will resurrect from it until that time. But Kenyans are processing it.
What if?
Kenyans are processing, so that is part of processing it, and yeah, he will be missed. He will be missed, but I don't think that will happen. But yeah,
what if it does?
Well, we shall know when it does. Yeah, I think we can cross that bridge when it happens. Yeah,
indeed.
Yeah.
In the line of course, mourning, and then we've got 10 minutes, of course, to end this particular conversation. In the line of mourning, there are bills that are being initiated. As an advocate, of course, of the High Court, how will you help us understand these bills, and of course, in setting stage of what are some of the ways that we can incorporate these bills in the line of our stay right in the Republic?
Thank you for asking that question, and I say this with a lot of caution and a lot of love, especially because I'm a Gen Z, and Gen Zs have what I consider a weakness: cancel culture. And sometimes when someone says something contrary to what they want to hear, there's a lot of pushback. So what I'm saying isn't in defense of the government or anything. But what I've realized is this: the conversation that is happening on social media concerning those bills, there's the debate of how they were rashly signed. Rashly is debatable. Perhaps signing them at the wake of the death of Honorable Raila Odinga is something, but these bills have been debated over time. Perhaps Kenyans were not following through. They're not bills that were introduced even in 2024. Some of these bills, when they're initially introduced, go all the way to 2023. So these are bills that have been introduced in the House, discussed over time, and we were probably just not paying attention. The other thing I want to tell Kenyans is that bills go through a process of debate. It has several stages, several house readings. It goes through several committees. And sometimes when someone introduces a bill, by the time it's passed, there are certain changes that are there. So the reason why I'm raising this is that I've realized that the bill and what people are discussing, and especially the cybercrime and the land, what is going around on social media isn't part of what has been signed by the president. And I'm not saying that in defense of the government. And I have been clear even on my social media and even tweets, can you make sure you're reading the proper act? So for example, what is on social media about the cyber crimes is that if you give out information, there's this fine and imprisonment. If you've been summoned by the police, you've been summoned by the police and you tell anybody else, that also constitutes an offense, and many other provisions like that I'm sure you've seen. But those provisions, fellow Kenyans, are not in the Cyber Crimes and Computer Misuse Amendment Act of 2025. Yes, and I think the only person that I have seen in the limelight discuss the proper act of bill is the Honorable Senator Okia Omtata. I think he recently had an interview and he's talking about the cyber crimes and it's saying it's partly vague when you're talking about what it's introducing is an offense for sexual content of minors. There's cultism, religious extremism, and terrorism. And that terrorism still maintains the definition of terrorism in the Terrorism Act. So that is the only provision actually that has been introduced. And Kenyans, you can follow with me that some time back we've had accounts posting children and sexual content about, they're about to engage sexually with those children. And Kenyans have been, even on Instagram, trying to find these accounts and shut them down. So I think that informed that particular amendment. But people need to find the right act that was actually signed so that they can debate from information. I am encouraging debate of whether it's a good law, it's a bad law, is it vague or not, but only if you're debating the actual law. Same thing to the Land Amendment Act. There are two. There's the Land Amendment Act, there's the National Land Commission Amendment Act of 2025. The issue of the freehold and owners of freehold paying levy was dropped before the bill was actually signed into law. So if you go to the actual Land Amendment Act, you'll not find the provision on freehold, the one that was initially introduced in the bill. So there has been changes before the signing, and Kenyans have not come across the updated bill that was actually signed into law. So they are busy inciting each other and discussing maandamano from misinformation. So let me be out here clear as a lawyer, as a person who cares about Gen Zs, as a person who's very clear about good governance, and I support freedom of speech and I support protests when these need be. But let's engage from a point of actual, accurate information. The information circulating on the land and cyber crimes is not accurate. So let everybody find the accurate law that was signed. I have now shared screenshots of that because on Twitter I'm not able to share like a PDF. I've shared screenshots of the actual signed act and several people have done that. Let's cool down on the misinformation. Let's find those acts. It's introducing issues on sexual content of children, terrorism, cultism, and I think that's been informed with the Shakahola incident. Let's debate that. Okay, Omtata did raise, it might be vague, and I think that's a good discussion. But what is happening right now is completely misinformed.
But I believe that the misinformation should not result to the one that I saw on hospitals, that if you're unable to pay the bill, you can, later, ya shamba you can give in your land or your property for you to pay the hospital bill even before you start treatment.
Well, such kind of negotiations have always been there, by the way. They didn't start now.
Been there?
They've been there for years. Sometimes when people are not able to pay bills, they negotiate with the hospital for the patient to be released, and they give something. It's like surety. It's like a surety. And that has been normal practice, even with loans. You remember sometimes you go to those loan institutions and you give a copy of your logbook
before you get into the hospital.
Yeah.
Before you get to the hospital?
No, not before you get into the hospital. That is a discussion that comes way later.
Oh, okay.
Way later.
But this one says before even we start treatment, before even we start stories.
I haven't come across such a law. I would have to actually check if there's something like
is it
that.
hospital amendment bill?
Among the signed laws, no.
All right.
No.
So that is
among the 8 signed laws, I might not remember all of them.
Okay.
But you have the cybercrime. You have the Land Commission that I was talking about. There's the Land Act. There's the Privatization Act. There is something to do with aircraft and something related to aviation. There's the National Police Amendment Act, and I loved that one. It introduces mental health and counseling for police officers. People should also see that. And I think there's another one that I have quite forgotten, but I haven't come across that. And the one thing I want to assure Kenyans is, instead of going to the streets, because I've gone through these bills and they're not very detrimental, allow lawyers to go to court and declare some of those contentious sections. If there's such a section you're mentioning, we're able to debate that in court and get it declared unconstitutional. We don't need to do away with the whole law. Yeah.
Sawa. Marian Jogu, thank you so much for making time. I'd give you now a chance. Of course, you've mentioned about the screenshots, and many people would want to get in touch with this. You'll share with us how can we get these documents, and as well, and how will you give us your voice of reason, voice of thought to many other people that are watching us right now, and of course to just create a sense of understanding as you give us your last remarks, and of course the social media handles where we can now ignite change for a better tomorrow.
Yes, you can find me across any platform with my name, Marian Jogu. I go by my name, all platforms. My parting shot, I have several things to talk to Kenyans, but this is my individual contribution. The first thing, when we are looking at the life of Honorable Raila Odinga, this is a time to reflect. What values did he have? What fight did he have? What can we learn? And what can we take out of that in our own quest to change this country? The political landscape is changing with his exit, but there are things you can pick from him that can strengthen your movement moving forward. Secondly is that social media is a very good tool. It's a good tool for information, but it's also a great tool for misinformation. Let us make sure that when we debate with actual truth and facts. The other thing that I want to encourage Kenyans is that we've said the political landscape is changing. Can you be part of the change? And especially speak to young people, Gen Zs, millennials, and especially Gen Zs. Every time someone gives us a comment or a correction or an insight, we think we are being attacked. Let's slow down, and everybody has wisdom to give. When someone says that this war is not going to be won by noise, it's actually true. The people who take over power and govern, don't govern it and take over through noise. We need to organize to take power. So please, Gen Zs and young people and people across all walks of lives in Kenya, go register as a voter. The registration process was rolled out. I am requesting and urging all Kenyans, kindly register as a voter. The voice that will matter the most, more than the one on the streets, more than the one on Twitter and other social media, is on the ballot. So please make sure that you start these conversations. Let's organize early. Who are the leaders we are going to choose? Let's organize early, and that's my encouragement. Let's listen, let's engage, let's converse, let's be corrected where we need to be corrected. And as well, let's have space for character and values. I saw the mocking of the son of the late Honorable Raila Odinga, and I call it out. That actually qualifies as cyberbullying, by the way, and harassment. And we need to work as a generation. I have no doubt we're a generation that is going to change this country and take it forward and change the politics. But we need to also put values as part of our movement. Let's not forget to have values as part of our movement. Yes.
Values, well said and done.
Yes.
Thank you so much, Marian Jogu, Advocate of the High Court, for making time for us this morning. I believe for such conversations we'll keep on engaging for us to have a better understanding in the bills and then across the divide as well. We are so happy that you made time this morning. Asante sana. Now, this 31st of October, a legacy concert titled Raila Legacy Commemoration Festival is scheduled for October 31st, 2025 at Uhuru Park in Nairobi. Let's wait for it, and of course to see what are some of the ignitions that will take shape right there. And of course, to just have the better understanding, remember we are streaming this across all social media platforms. Remember, we also have our posters, our news updates on our digital networks, and of course, Cheza Kama Wewe, to really have an understanding, a clear understanding of all this. I am in agreement with the sentiments of Nyuto. The president's team will do anything to create animosity between our two communities. With my generation going forward, it will not be possible. I've lived with I've lived with and among the Kikuyus. We are one people. Kenya is united. So this story or this issue, Raila Odinga, sparked controversy across the divides, but also the one thing that really stands out is he was the man of the people, just as he wrote in the Flame of Freedom. And of course, we are hoping for the best outcomes after these stories. Raila Odinga may calm down a little bit. So I don't know how we'll do that, but we're hoping for the best as well. All right, let's remain united. Kenya is united. See you next time. Of course, tomorrow we'll be having musicians to really also have, because Raila also loved music, so we'll also have a conversation on the blendings of different kind of art and different kind of musics that are taking shape as far as Raila is concerned. My name is Moses. Thank you so much for joining us, and thank you so much Marian Jogu for making time, and thank you so much my director King Dante Max and Kamefe for really embracing this. Good morning.
We value your feedback and welcome your complaints about our programming and operations. Feel free to get in touch with us through 0700 893 542 or send us an email to info@lookuptv.co.ke.
Do you need